The neon sign of the St. Mary's General Hospital buzzed against the dark, snowy sky of Montreal. It was 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve, while the rest of the city was popping champagne and kissing strangers. Dr. Sarah Evans was scrubbing blood off her hands in the trauma center. She was the chief of emergency medicine, a woman who commanded respect and saved lives daily. She was exhausted, having just stabilized a car crash victim. She checked her phone. A text from her husband, Richard, a wealthy investment banker. "Happy New Year, darling. Miss you. I'm just going to bed early. It's lonely here without you." Before we dive into the most explosive night of this doctor's life, I have a question for you. Have you ever caught someone in a lie because they forgot one tiny detail? Tell me your story in the comments below, and let me know which city you are watching from. If you love stories where justice is served cold like a Canadian winter, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our family, and let's expose the cheaters together. Sarah smiled at the text. She felt guilty for working, but Richard had been so understanding. He told her he hated parties anyway and would just read a book by the fire at their sprawling estate in Westmount. "I love you," she texted back. "I'll be home at 7 a.m. She put the phone away, drank a stale coffee, and prepared for the midnight rush of drunk drivers and fireworks accidents. She trusted Richard completely. He was her rock. Or so she thought. At 11:45 p.m., the radio at the nurse's station crackled to life. "Incoming Priority 1. Anaphylactic shock. Airway compromised. Female, approximate age 25, ETA 2 minutes." The paramedics sounded frantic. Patient was found unconscious at a private residence. Pulse is thready. Sarah snapped into mode. "Get Bayonne ready. I need epinephrine and an intubation kit. Stat." The ambulance bay doors flew open, letting in a blast of freezing air. The stretcher rattled and the paramedics were performing CPR. Sarah rushed over. "What do we have?" she barked. "Severe allergic reaction to shellfish," the paramedic yelled. "Throat is closed shut. We can't get air in." Sarah looked at the patient. She was young, blonde, and beautiful, even with her face swollen and blue. But then Sarah froze. Her medical brain stopped for a split second, overridden by a personal shock that hit her like a sledgehammer. The woman on the stretcher wasn't wearing regular clothes. She was wearing a silk, emerald green kimono robe. It had a gold dragon embroidered on the back. It was a limited edition piece from Japan. It was Sarah's robe, the one hanging in her master bathroom. "Doctor! We are losing her!" the nurse screamed, snapping Sarah back to reality. Sarah shook her head violently. She pushed the personal horror aside. She had an oath to keep. "Tube her," Sarah commanded, grabbing the laryngus. She leaned over the woman who was wearing her clothes, fighting to save the life of the person who was stealing hers. It was a difficult intubation. The swelling was massive. Sarah's hands were steady, but her heart was hammering against her ribs. Who is she? Why is she in my house? Where is Richard? She finally managed to slide the tube past the swollen vocal cords. "I'm in," Sarah announced. "Bagger, push the epi. Get her BP up." As the nurses worked to stabilize the patient, a man burst through the UR doors. He was disheveled, wearing expensive pajama bottoms and a hasty overcoat. He was pale, sweating, and terrified. "Is she okay? Please, tell me she's okay," he shouted, running toward the trauma bay. Security guards stepped forward to stop him. Sarah turned around slowly. She pulled down her surgical mask. The man stopped dead in his tracks. It was Richard, her husband, the man who was reading a book and missing her. He looked at the patient on the table. Then he looked at the doctor saving her. His eyes went wide with a terror that had nothing to do with the medical emergency. "Sarah," Richard whispered, his voice cracking. "You're on shift? I thought you were at the other hospital tonight." Sarah stared at him. The sounds of the ER faded into a buzz. She looked at him, then at the girl in her green robe. The pieces clicked together instantly. The lonely night, the shellfish allergies. Sarah kept no shellfish in the house because she hated it, so he must have ordered it in. "I'm the chief of staff." "Richard?" Sarah said, her voice deadly calm. I work where the emergencies are, and it seems the emergency came from my living room. She stepped closer to him. Who is she? Richard stammered, looking for a lie, but there was nowhere to go. She's a colleague. We were just discussing business. Business? Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. Does business usually involve wearing my silk kimono and eating lobster at midnight on New Year's Eve? Richard looked down. Sarah, please. Not here. Not in front of everyone. This is my hospital, Richard, Sarah hissed. This is my arena. You brought your mistress to my workplace, wearing my clothes. You don't get to dictate the terms. The patient's monitor started to beep rhythmically. She's stabilizing. Doctor, the nurse called out, eyeing the drama with wide eyes. BP is normalizing. Sarah didn't look back at the patient. She looked at her husband. I just saved her life. Richard, I just breathed air into the lungs of the woman sleeping in my bed. Do you understand the irony of that? I'm sorry, Richard sobbed, collapsing onto a waiting room chair. It was a mistake. It was just a fling. She didn't know about the allergy. I ordered the seafood platter. I didn't know. You didn't know a lot of things, Sarah said coldly. You didn't know I would be the one to treat her. You didn't know I would recognize my own room. And you certainly didn't know that I changed the locks on the safe this morning. Richard looked up, confused. The safe. Yes. The one with your bonds. The one with the deeds. I had a feeling, Richard, call it a doctor's intuition. You've been working late a lot, so I moved some things around. This was a bluff mostly, but seeing the panic in his eyes confirmed everything. He cared more about the assets than the affair. Sarah turned to security. Escort this man to the waiting room. He is not family of the patient. He has no legal standing here. But Sarah, I'm your husband, Richard pleaded. Not for long, Sarah replied. She turned her back on him and went back to the patient. Anaulete, the young woman woke up. She was groggy, her throat sore, but alive. Sarah was standing over her, checking the chart. The woman blinked, looking at Sarah's name tag. Dr. Evans, she rasped. Yes, Sarah said. I'm Dr. Evans. And you are Tiffany, the girl whispered. Thank you, he said. He said he called 911. Did Richard come? He's outside, Sarah said professionally. Tiffany, I need to ask you something. That robe you were wearing? It's beautiful. Tiffany smiled weakly. Oh, thanks. Richard gave it to me. He said it was a gift from his trip to Japan. He said he bought it for his future wife. Sarah felt a sharp pain in her chest, but she swallowed it. His future wife! Yeah, Tiffany said, oblivious. He told me he's been divorced for a year. He said his ex-wife was a crazy workaholic doctor who never came home. He said the house was his. Sarah closed the chart. The audacity was breathtaking. Richard hadn't just cheated. He had erased her existence. He was playing house in her mansion, giving away her clothes, pretending she was already gone. I see, Sarah said softly. Well, Tiffany, I have some news for you. Richard isn't divorced. Tiffany frowned. What? Yes, he is. He showed me the papers. He lied, Sarah said, leaning in. He is very much married. In fact, he is married to the doctor who just shoved a plastic tube down your throat to save your life. I am Sarah Evans, the crazy workaholic. Tiffany's eyes went wide. The color drained from her face. She looked at the robe, which had been cut open by the paramedics. She looked at Sarah. Oh my God, Tiffany whispered. I didn't know. I swear. He told me the house was empty. He told me you lived in Toronto. Sarah looked at the girl. She was young, naive. She wasn't the enemy. The enemy was the man in the waiting room. I believe you, Sarah said. Men like Richard are very convincing, but now you know. So here is the situation. You are going to be fine. But he is not. Sarah walked out to the waiting room. It was 1 a.m. Happy New Year. Richard was pacing. When he saw Sarah, he ran over. Is she okay? Can I see her? She's awake, Sarah said. She told me about the future wife comment and the divorced for a year story. Nice touch, Richard. Richard went pale. She was confused. The drugs? She was perfectly lucid, Sarah corrected. And now I am going to be perfectly lucid with you. You are going to leave my hospital. You are going to go to my house. You are going to pack a bag. And you are going to leave. You can't kick me out, Richard snapped, his arrogance returning now that the immediate medical crisis was over. That's my house, too. We have a Actually, Sarah smiled, a cold, surgical smile. We do. And do you remember the infidelity clause? The one my father insisted on? Any proof of adultery resulting in public scandal or humiliation voids all claims to marital assets. Richard froze. He remembered. This is a public hospital. Sarah gestured around. There are nurses, paramedics, police officers, and patients here. Everyone saw you bring your mistress in. Everyone knows. The scandal is established. The humiliation is complete. You wouldn't, Richard whispered. Watch me, Sarah said. I save lives for a living. Richard, I deal with trauma every day. Cutting you out of my life is just like removing a tumor. It might bleed a little, but the patient will be much healthier afterwards. Sarah pulled out her phone. She called the house security. Change the gate codes, she ordered on speakerphone. Mr. Evans is no longer permitted entry. If he tries to enter, call the police. Understood, Dr. Evans, the guard replied. Richard stood there, defeated. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Sarah said, checking her watch. Maybe you can go to Tokyo. I hear it's beautiful this time of year. She turned around and walked back into the ER. There were other patients waiting. There were broken bones and fevers. She had work to do. She didn't look back at the man she had loved for 10 years. He was already a ghost. Tiffany was discharged the next morning. She left the hospital in a pair of scrubs Sarah gave her, carrying the ruined green robe in a plastic bag. She stopped at the nurse's station. Dr. Evans. Sarah looked up from her paperwork. I'm sorry, Tiffany said, and thank you. You didn't have to save me. Yes, I did, Sarah said. I took an oath, but do me a favor, anything. Burn the robe, Sarah said. It has bad energy now. Tiffany nodded. Done. Sarah went home at 8 a.m. The house was quiet. The remnants of the seafood dinner were still on the table. 2 champagne glasses, a half-eaten lobster. It looked like a crime scene of a marriage. Sarah didn't cry. She put on gloves. She threw everything in the trash. She called a cleaning crew. I want everything sanitized, she told them. Especially the master bedroom. Burn the sheets. Then she sat by the fireplace with a glass of her own champagne. She watched the sun rise over the snow. She was alone, but she wasn't lonely. She felt free. Richard tried to fight the divorce. He hired sharks, but the hospital records, the paramedic reports, and Tiffany's testimony she turned against him after realizing she was just a pawn were overwhelming. Sarah kept the house. She kept her money. She kept her dignity. Richard lost his reputation. In the tight-knit circle of Montreal's elite, the story of the ER mistress became legendary. He was the man who was so cheap he fed his mistress shellfish she was allergic to, and so stupid he brought her to his wife's hospital. Sarah continued to save lives. She became a legend in the ER, not because of the scandal, but because of how she handled it. She showed every young resident that a doctor is a professional first and a human second. She showed that you can have your heart broken at midnight and still intubate a patient at 12:05. A year later on New Year's Eve, Sarah was working again. She preferred it. The ER was her sanctuary. A handsome firefighter was brought in with a minor burn. He flirted with her while she bandaged his arm. Any plans for midnight, Doc? He asked. Sarah smiled. Just saving lives, she said. Maybe I can take you for coffee when your shift ends, he asked. Sarah looked at him. He was honest. He had kind eyes. Maybe, she said, but no seafood. He laughed. Deal. Deal. This story teaches us a vital lesson about integrity. Richard thought he could live two lives. He thought he could have the wife with the status and the mistress with the excitement, but lies are like a house of cards. Eventually, the wind blows. It also teaches us about the power of professionalism. Sarah could have let her emotions rule her. She could have hesitated in that trauma bay. If she had delayed treatment by even 1 minute, Tiffany might have died. Sarah chose her duty over her pain. Karma is often poetic. Richard brought his secret to the light because he had no choice. He was forced to ask his wife for help to save the woman he was replacing her with. The universe has a strange sense of humor. We often fear finding out the truth. We fear the pain of betrayal. But the truth, no matter how sharp, is a surgical tool. It cuts out the rot so healing can begin. Sarah's pain was sharp, but her recovery was clean. Never underestimate a woman who deals with life and death every day. You cannot scare her. You cannot intimidate her. And you certainly cannot lie to her. She sees through the skin, right down to the bone. If you are in a relationship where you feel like you are being played, trust your gut. If the business trips don't add up, if the phone is always face down, pay attention. You deserve to be the only one in the picture, not a backup plan. And if you are the other person, remember Tiffany. You might think you are special, but to a cheater, you are just another secret. And secrets are rarely kept forever. Sarah Evans is still the chief of She bought a new green robe. This time, she bought it for herself. She wears it while drinking coffee on her balcony, watching the city she protects. She proved that you can lose a husband and gain a life. She proved that the best revenge is not screaming or fighting. The best revenge is living well, saving lives, and locking the gate behind you. If this story of high-stakes medical drama and ultimate justice satisfied you, please hit the like button. Let's prescribe a dose of truth to the world. Comment code BLUE down below if you would have handled it like Sarah. Share this video with your friends. Remind them that cheaters never win in the end. Thank you for watching, family. You are the heartbeat of this channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Stay safe, stay honest, and keep your allergies in check. Good.